There
we are.
Are we? Oh, there we are. Okay. Hey, everybody. It is another Thursday and another episode of Chiropractic is Sexy. I'm Dr. Paula Ruffin.
And I'm Dr. Erica Peabody. And I say this every week, but
Oh,
they
man.
go so
We are
fast.
here.
They go
It
so fast. I
does.
swear we were just here. It's so fun, though.
I know. It seems like just a week ago.
It seems like yesterday.
So we got some just fun stuff. If you were on last week, Dr. Erica is going to update us on a story that she talked about last week. She also said she's feeling very fiery and feisty today. So
and spicy.
I have a feeling today is going to be fun. So
Yes.
grab a friend, get on over here, hit
Turn
the
your hearing
subscribe
aids up.
and the thumbs up button, because I don't think you're going to want to miss this.
Yeah.
When this girl gets feisty, oh.
I know. Most of the time I'm like that. I'm also, don't you feel like, I mean, there's so many ways we could get on our soapbox every single day. And we also never want to ostracize anybody. So for me personally, I play a lot of Switzerland. I'm like Swiss, right? And so, but when we get on here, it's fun because we get to let things rip. And Dr. Paula said after last week, because we had to take a couple of weeks off for obligations and also for the holidays fell on a Thursday. And but last week after we got off, it's like, no wonder we're doing this, because it's so good for us to be able to have like kind of this platform that we've created to really talk about health and healing. So, okay, to recap, and I wish I actually had all this stuff with me, but my team took off and I meant to print a couple things out, but I read you guys an x-ray report last week. And it sounded something like there's degenerative changes in the left glenohumeral joint, which is the shoulder joint. This patient has had relentless pain for about 2 months. She is working out. She is 66 years old, female, in pretty good shape, inflammatory lifestyle, just because it's the summertime, lake time, Michigan, blah, blah, blah. But she does a lot of good things for her health. Just this time in the summer, it's like, I hang with some of these people and I don't do a lot of participation in alcohol for one. I definitely have a cocktail from here or there, but try and live like super clean, healthy, hydrate, and all that. So anyway, the report was talking about degenerative changes in the shoulder, but it was also saying like there's, different things kind of building in there, and that, further imaging, blah, blah, blah. So that was the findings. And then the radiologist writes a conclusion underneath it. So all of this led me to think osteoarthritis, which is the body's under a lot of stress. It starts to lay down calcium. And so, but how it read was osteoporosis. And osteoporosis is truly like a damaging of the bone, enough wearing down of the bone, enough demineralization of the bone that the bone loses integrity. And a lot of people have heard osteoporosis, osteopenia, blah, blah, blah. So the findings and the conclusion were not lining up. Now she went back to her DO and they ordered up some blood work and a bone density scan. And I'm here sitting and reeling. I'm like, something seems off about this. So I call over to the imaging center and I talked to the nurse there and I just said, hey, this is Dr. Peabody. I didn't order up this x-ray, but I did get a copy of it because it's my patient as well as her chiropractor. And I am questioning the findings and the conclusion. Everything about the findings is leading to osteoarthritis, and everything, the final conclusion by the radiologist is osteoporosis. And now, if osteoporosis is in the glenohumeral joint in the shoulder, that means that's like last ditch effort for the body to
even
figure out.
standing straight up.
It means you need to go see an endocrinologist. You need to see a functional medicine. Like it's something chemically wrong in the endocrine system. So I said, I would love to be able to chat with the radiologist. I'm just questioning this. And so she she said, he's not in right now. Let me see if I can forward you to his offsite cell phone number or whatever. So she tried to do that. And she said, I can't get to him. Can I leave him a message? I said, yes, have him just give me a call. And then I went to my front desk and I said, if Dr. So-and-so calls the radiologist, then please, I'll take the call if I can. So she comes back in like 10 minutes. And she says, hey, Dr. blah, 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 the radiologist is on the phone. He'd like to talk to you. And I said, hey, doc, I was reading this report and, I send out for imaging. I don't have x-ray in my office, but I do know a lot about imaging. If we do anything in chiropractic college more than anybody else, it's definitely radiology and supplementation and a lot of endocrinology, right? So I'm like, something doesn't line up. Would you mind rereading that? And he says to me, he said, I already looked at it. And he says, the dictation system that I use made a big mistake. And I meant it, I dictated in osteoarthrosis, which is a chronic enough condition that the scar tissue starts to change the joint form instead of just inflammation. So osteoarthritis is the inflammation process. Osteoarthrosis is inflammation has been long enough, it's changing tissue. So he says, yeah, it was supposed to say osteoarthrosis. And I was like, well, sir, with all due respect, like that leads to incredibly differential diagnosis, incredibly different testing. And can you change this report? And I'm glad that I called you, for goodness sakes. So he says, I've had an imaging center for 20 years. When I joined this particular imaging group, he says, I don't like their system. I can't stand when this happens, but it made me think of, he said, I can't change the report, but I can put an addendum on it. And I was like, okay, can we please do that? Can you please forward the report back? Now, I never saw the report yet. And the patient actually contacted me yesterday and she said, I was in for a bone scan and they have not changed the report yet. And I said, okay, I know they haven't changed that report. And so, but what this made me think of is, and in so many ways, like I follow cases through all the way to get all the circles closed, as many as I can, until it's turned over and referred to somebody else. And I know I've talked about some of these cases already, but for this one, it was like, the circle needs to be closed. It doesn't mean that she shouldn't go in for a bone scan, but that was definitely in addition to this isn't an endocrine system issue. She should still see functional medicine because of an inflammatory lifestyle. But it was also like, there are so many balls dropped. And I want to say this with all due respect, because Dr. Paula and I, we do chiropractic, functional medicine, nutrition, all the things. Like there's a lot of things that we do. There's a lot of things that we count on medical doctors, especially emergency medicine, especially those kinds of things we cannot do. I respect the medical profession. What I can tell you is hospitals and doctors' offices are understaffed, balls are being dropped, and it just gives me reason to come to you today and say, take responsibility for your health. It's different today than it used to be. My sister-in-law used to be a caseworker at a hospital. Their hospital patient load was supposed to be 5 patients to 1 caseworker. It got up to 35 to 1.
Wow. Holy moly.
She went to HR and she says, this isn't safe care anymore. HR's response to her, and this is a big hospital system, HR's response, you probably should get your own malpractice insurance.
Wow.
So I'm only saying this not out of disrespect to the system at all. We need them. We need them. But this is what I'm saying. Take responsibility. Ask the big questions. When things don't line up, ask bigger questions. When those things don't line up, ask bigger questions. Fire your doctors. Hire new ones. Follow through. You need a health advocate on your side. We're here for you if we can help in any way. But that's a very significant diagnosis and a very significant projection or trajectory for this particular patient's life. And where she would go from here. Fortunately, now she's got her bone scan done, and I got that report on my desk yesterday, and I sent it to her and chatted with her about it. That's when she told me that the X-ray report hadn't been changed yet, or an addendum been made yet. But so then the report says blah blah blah. She's 66, right? So she's into what they would rate as osteopenia. So which is fine. Like that's kind of, I don't want to call it a normal, but it's a very common way.
Why don't you define that for just give
Okay,
people
so,
the range of
yeah.
how we get to osteopenia and then how we get to osteoporosis, just so they know what we're dealing with.
Yeah. So maybe, and you can give your feedback in here too. So osteoporosis gets to like full pathological bone loss. Osteopenia is lightening of the bones. So they start to demineralize your body when it needs things in your body for processes, just functioning through life. And it needs minerals, and we're not supplementing properly, and we're not doing weight bearing, and we're having, there's the whole thing that we talk about every single week. When those things aren't happening, the body is still requires minerals, and it's going to start to leach them out of the bones first, because it's trying to keep the body alive. And we talk about this a lot. And there's a couple incredible examples of the body's will to get to tomorrow is so strong and so powerful. And it's going to do basically just about anything to do that. And so osteopenia is just like a lightening of the bones, a slight start of the demineralization process that if it goes too far, and maybe we can even talk about how to undo some of that. But if it goes too far, then it heads towards osteoporosis. So osteopenia, I'm fine with that as a label if we need to label anything. But in the conclusion, this is the language that's like so aggravating. And this is what gets me like just off my, I really, I can't do it out there on my adjusting floor that way, because I really still want to be and help these people all the time and help everybody I can. But it's what really, really makes my blood boil is language like this. And like I said, I'll bring it next week. Just, I don't have it in front of me and I can't even pull it up on my computer system. It says something like this: the probability of patient with said osteopenia, the probability of a fracture in the next 10 years is 20%, which is fine, appropriate. I don't know. But that language is not necessary at all. And Dr. Paula and I were just talking about this before. It was like, yeah, we have probability. We don't know what we don't know that we have probability for. But to put that language in someone's mind is exactly what creates the stress that then leads down that path. So anyway, I will get off my soapbox at this point and pass it over to my dear friend for any kind of feedback you have on that, because I just am like, I'm grateful, you guys. I'm so grateful for what I do and that people come and trust me in helping them find their health. I have a couple other stories too this week. Actually, one from yesterday, one from this morning, something very similar. And I am so grateful. And so thank you for just allowing us to join you from this platform and share. It's truly a blessing, because the frustration is high and our knowledge is far reaching. So,
well, I have quite a few things on that. And so I'll start, first of all, by saying, great job, Doc. And this is how we take care of our patients. We're not surgeons. We're not endocrinologists. We're not whatever, all the cardiologists. What we do have is the ability to take a 30,000 foot view and be able to get you to the place that is necessary to give you the best possible outcome.
mm-hmm.
And this is where, and I always hate that we have to preface ourselves with, we need medicine and I respect medicine. Great, got it, mm-hmm. right? Like we all know. And of course, then we have to say, if I'm ever in an accident, I'm grateful for medicine. Okay, like I hate the fact that we have to preface it before we say, This is so freaking common. And we're the ones that are quacks. And we're the ones that don't get referred to when we are saving lives to that level, like what Dr. Erica did. And let me tell you why she saved this woman's life. Because I don't think, I'm just going on a limb. Doctors, to her point, 35-1. Doctors don't have time to, like, her medical doctor probably would have skimmed that and been like, oh, osteoporosis, let's put you on Fosamax, which is a highly dangerous drug. I have seen more patients in my 26 years who've been put on this who come in with spontaneous compression fractures. And you know what that means? That means their body just breaks for no reason. That's not supposed to happen. And what these supposedly bone building drugs do is they don't allow for the removal of the old bone cells. Your body is supposed to regenerate itself. And so what it does is it preserves the old bone cells that are supposed to be going away and getting recycled, and it puts new bone on top. Well, now your foundation is brittle and weak. So let's just say that her doctor wouldn't have had the time to look at it. He wouldn't have questioned, he or she wouldn't have questioned it. And now suddenly she gets put on these drugs at 66 years old because now she's, if it's osteoporosis, your risk is now 50% or whatever it is, 40 to 50%. So it really becomes an issue. Going back to what Dr. Erica said about being responsible for yourself. And I tell every single one of my patients, don't just look in your portal, download everything, download the reports. If your doctor calls you and says, your results are fine, you're fine, that means nothing to you. I want everyone within earshot to hear me on this. Your blood work's fine, your cholesterol's a little high, you could use some vitamin D. That's not an answer. So you have to then say, I would like the report. I would like the full report. And it's not just, sometimes doctors will send you like a form and it'll just say your results. And they'll just highlight whichever ones they think are relevant. They're all relevant in the functional medicine world. Most of those lab tests are too the wide, the ranges are so wide that they allow for so much error. They allow for this subclinical illness, chronic, slow smoldering of your health, which is what osteopenia is. It's this chronic low smoldering. And you know what the doctors tell you about osteopenia? Just take calcium, you'll be fine. That's not the answer. The answer is you have to change your lifestyle. That's an absorption issue. You're not absorbing things properly. Your body's deficient and depleted every way. So it is pulling and depleting the bones. So if I could recap that. So Dr. Erica saved a woman's life. Yes, I believe that. Let's all golf clap her on that. Pay attention when you get labs. Get your labs. Again, don't just look in the portal, download them to your computer so you have them. We had, here in Michigan, it was a, oh gosh, I forgot how many hospitals it was. It was actually across America. And it was a hack in the system, in the Ascension system. And they were down for weeks. And I have patients who work there. They're still now trying to get all of the data back in. So you would have lost access to your portal and to all of your records. So it's really critical that you get a folder and just old school it and print all your stuff out and put it in a folder. So you've got it. So then when you go to your chiropractor and you say, can you help me with this? And this is something too that's super maddening, is that how many patients do you get that walk in and say, can you tell me what this means? My doctor just said it's fine, and I have no idea how to read it. Or my doctor said whatever and gave them some flippant, sloughed them off. I don't know how to read it. And I'm sorry to say, I have so many of those requests. I charge to consult.
Yeah.
on that. I charge people to, unless it's like a patient and it's an MRI and it's relevant to the case. But if you just come in with random blood work, random MRIs, and you're like, I don't know what this means, that is my time and expertise that your doctor did not take
Right.
to be able to help you understand what's going on with your own health. So
yeah. Well, the whole process was really interesting. And this was actually, so it was last Thursday, actually. And I made the call the afternoon and I got through. And then that night, I got this message from her. I just want to read it to you because it's like little tiny things that have a complete different trajectory in their world. So, because initially she's like, should I be worried? And that's what we talked about last week. Should I be worried? I'm like, yeah, if your body's taking minerals from your shoulder, yes, you should be worried. You need to get to the functional medicine right away. You need to really start to clean up, blah, blah, blah. And so, not that she shouldn't be worried. There's still always, there's some work to be done. And she wrote, I walked inside and just saw this notepad under some papers, definitely appropriate for you and that call today. And it's this thing, and I'll read it to you. And it says, may you be proud of the work you do, the person you are, and the difference you make. And it's like, that's just one small drop in the hat, a drop in the bucket for that one patient. But it's like, that was extreme because of how it came from the radiologist and blah, blah, blah. But this is what happens in our office every single day for 20 years in my world, and 25 or 6, wherever you are now, Dr. Paula,
6
in yours. And it's the stuff that it's like, I want to get to the end of my life and know that I made a difference. And I mean, I've read you some other stuff, and it's like, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Yep.
And we don't take it for granted.
Every day, this is what we're doing. And, and also every day triggers these emotions.
Yeah.
This is not isolated. Like I've always said, I expect miracles, and yet I'm still blown away by them.
Yeah.
Every day, because you're just like, it never gets old to see how you're able to positively impact somebody's life, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So so pay attention. And, sometimes, maybe this is the message. I titled this, what will it take for you to give up your bad habits? And it's really appropriate because oftentimes you're getting these results back. You're not really being guided properly. So to Dr. Erica's point, find functional medicine, whether it's one of us or whether it's somebody else, but get to work with somebody who's going to be able to help you find strategically what you need to not only give up the bad habits, but adopt new ones that are going to impact your life in a positive way, and ones that are going to reverse osteopenia, osteoporosis, whatever it is. But
I had a patient in this morning, and her doctor was like, she's like, I need to fire this doctor anyways. I'm like, yeah. And she said, so the MD, she was in for just a regular routine kind of physical, which is what it is, right? But she said, as you get older, you can't lose weight anyway. So it's not even worth trying. It was like, when we were talking about her blood pressure medication, and her body is so much better. She's lost a bunch of weight. She retired 2 years ago from a highly stressed position. She's like, should I be on this medication? And I didn't prescribe the meds, so I can't tell her. But I said, you are your best health advocate. It's good to be asking these questions. Just ask. And then she's like, I think I need to fire her. This is what she told me. And I was like, yep, fire her, hire someone new. And she's like, and she's super overweight anyway. When she's trying to tell me this, I'm like, so, we're not perfect out here. Dr. Paula and I are not perfect, but we do walk our talks. We do what we say, what we tell you guys to do, which is eat well, move well, drink your water, get adjusted, stay happy, get your rest.
Yeah, I was at an appointment yesterday, and young girl, she 30, 31, something like that. And she I had just come from the gym. And then I said,
Hi.
I had just come. I know. I'm like, hi. Are you my window guys? Okay. I'm in the middle of a podcast, so that's okay. Come on in. Do what you got to do. I love my window cleaning day. And I do it regularly so that I can see out my windows, kind of like getting adjusted, so my nervous system can see
It's
what.
clear.
Anyway, so she says, and she was, I would say a little overweight, but then she told me she was like 14 weeks pregnant, but she wasn't pregnant enough for her to be holding the weight that she was. So she definitely had some weight on her. And so she said, she's like, oh, I just hate exercise. And I'm like, those kinds of statements, that one, and I hate water, like those statements make me cringe because I'm like, what? I was like,
Okay.
I don't get it.
It doesn't matter.
And I said, well, why do you hate exercise? And she's like, I just don't like the way it makes me feel. I mean, it hurts. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to. Like, what? And she's like, I know. And, and then she starts talking about as she's getting older, and she already has one, she's got like a 16-month-old, and then she's pregnant again. And she's like, and she goes, and both of her pregnancies were whoopsies. And, it was really difficult for me not to go into my rant of 80% of Americans are overweight and malnourished. And do you know how long it takes to bring your body up to sufficient levels if you're doing all the right things? 6 to 9 months. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to go, oh my God, the amount of gestation that we need to grow a human is the exact amount of time that you need to bring your body up to sufficient levels so you can nourish the life you are growing. Yeah. So this notion of, oh, I'll do it when I'm ready to have a baby, or I'll do it later on in life. It's so much harder, you guys. So what is it going to take? Going back to the title of the show, what's it going to take to give up your bad habits? What is it going to look like for you? What does the last 10 years of your life look like? Mm-hmm. And if you think of that right now, if you say, okay, I want to live to 100, from 90 to 100, are you still mobile? Are you still driving? Are you still being able to have social events? Are you still picking up your grandkids? Are you still traveling? What is it? Are you still living on your own? All of those are like my big things, Mm-hmm. I don't need to be mountain biking, but certainly I want to be able to have a life that's filled with like mental and physical vitality.
Yeah.
And the life I'm currently living, I'm on track for that.
Yeah.
So where are you today? Are you on track to live the last 10 years of your life as the best 10 years of your life? Mm-hmm. So really think about that. What is it going to take? Are you in a wheelchair, not being able to walk, watching your grandkid get married, or are you up on the dance floor dancing? Which one are you? Mm-hmm. So I know which one I want to be. So
yeah, for sure. And I was just sharing with that particular patient that was talking about weight loss this morning, and that she's done a really great job. I mean, if I had to call her an age, I would say she's 63, 4, something like that. And I said, well, how long have you been on your blood pressure med? And she's like, well, probably, I'm like, can you say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, doesn't need to be exact. But anyway, she said, I would say probably 10 years, but her life has radically changed in the last 2 years. And I'm like, okay, so if you needed it back then and your numbers were like 300, it would spike up to 300 over something, whatever. I'm like, are you testing it right now? Are you taking your blood pressure on a daily? Do you have a monitor? What is happening? She's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, well, then get started. And how much blood pressure medication are you taking? And she's like, well, 100 milligrams a day. And I'm like, then it's okay to like do a science experiment with yourself. Like start to see what you are regularly. I'm like, because what happens is our blood pressure is raised. Well, number one, depending on the amount of extra weight you have on, like there's hundreds of thousands of miles of capillaries for certain, like per extra pound of body weight. So when the body has to push blood and oxygen through then it's, it's going to take a different amount of pressure. And that is one of the reasons why blood pressure goes up when you gain weight and why it goes down when you lose weight. So she's lost, I think she probably she's short and small, but she's probably lost about 20 pounds. And so then it was like, well, it's time to look into this, because if your brain requires a certain amount of O2 to keep you upright, then that's why your blood pressure goes up, to make sure your brain's supported with O2. And if it's starting to change, then, and you're lowering your blood pressure unnaturally through medication, then your brain's going through layers of hypoxia because you don't have enough pressure, possibly. It's good to make those questions. So yeah, because then, and I said, it's what matters today. Yes. However, this is the accumulation of the quality of life at the end of life. What comes with to bring you to a place of quality of life, physically, mentally, and just all the ways, like Dr. Paula said, are you dancing, or are you in a wheelchair? Is your brain functioning? Are you relating to people, or are you not? There's a good portion of our population these days that don't have quality of life at that point. And the biggest portion, or the fastest growing portion of our population, fastest, not biggest, fastest, is centurions who are living to 100. So that's the fast growing portion of the population. When they were born, their life expectancy was 50. So when you outlive your life expectancy by double, and you didn't make the proper eat well, move well, think well, drink your water, get your rest, and get adjusted choices along the way, here we are.
And look at, so the generation below us, so like my daughter's generation, their generation is now, their life expectancy is 5 years less than ours.
And this is the first time that's ever happened.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
We've never outlived our kids in a life expectancy scenario. And it's because of all the processed foods, all the chemicals, the lack of movement. It's technology. We're in this world of all the lights. I'm like sitting here, I've got 2 giant lights blasting in my face. We're in this world of light spectrums that are not natural for us. And that is killing us. And
we don't have the we as much. We don't have the community as much. We don't have the us around in our life at that age anymore. There's this new restaurant here in town, and it's like it's gone wild. The Rail Yard, in case you guys are hearing about it in Fenton, it's blown up our town, but it was so interesting to go in there because it's a very popular place for kids, but also like 20s to 35 age range. And I'm much older than that, and have pretty good interpersonal communication ability. But I walked in there one day, and there's these big tables, like long tables. So even if you didn't come with people, like sometimes they'll sit on one side of the table and you're like down on the other side, kind of like a community dining, right? So I walked in, and one of these tables was filled. There was probably 12 people in that age range sitting around. Everybody was on their phones at a restaurant with music and friends. Nobody was talking to each other. And that was a very, very, very extreme situation, taste of the microcosm that's going on. But that's more than the norm than not. If you go to just look around at restaurants. There are couples out all the time. They're both on their phones. They're not even talking to each other. Friends that are, worried about the selfie rather than the actual connection. And it's a bummer, but that's part of health too. And I'm certain that is decreasing life expectancy because we don't have that community. You can get everything you need right on here. All the dopamine hits you want. That's easy.
Doesn't give you longevity.
Easy access to dopamine.
Mm-hmm. Well, also this same person yesterday, when she was talking about how she hates exercise, she's like, I do a little bit of Pilates, and I only do it at home because I'm afraid to go into a studio, wherever,
And start.
She said, because I don't want to look like a fool. And I said, you won't. Like, no, that's not how those kinds of communities work.
Right.
And then Dr. Erica knows this. I ran an event last night called Get Fit on the Grand right here in my community. And I brought together, last night we had 4 different health and fitness. We had jazzercise, Pilates, yoga, and what was the 4th one? Cardio drumming.
Oh yeah.
And super fun. Yeah. And we had like almost 40 people there. And one, I got up and I was talking for a couple of minutes and I said, when you're sitting home because you're afraid, my goal was, and each person just did 15-minute blocks so you could get a flavor and not be afraid to go into any one of those places. And, the whole concept is also, there's a whole community there, because when you need encouragement, when you need accountability, you have to have a community. You can't be sitting in your living room streaming a video. Number one, you're not going to be as motivated or inspired.
Right.
And number 2, nobody's going to be there and be like, oh, let's go get coffee after, or just, wow, great job. Oh my gosh. I can tell you're really trimming down, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to have a community around you that is loving and supportive. And that's what getting out of your own way, if you will, like, don't be afraid to go and do things so that you can, because you're going to build that level of community. That is one of the markers of longevity. It's one of the main markers of longevity for people, is maintaining that mental sharpness through.
So community. I think one of the things too that social media has done is that, you can obviously apply to absolutely everybody. It's the highlight reel, right? So when you are a beginner, nobody is good at stuff when they're a beginner, but you don't see the beginner stuff. So then it's like, well, these people have been doing blah, blah, blah forever, and it's hard to be a beginner. In fact, I watched this in my nephew who's 12. So I have a niece who's 14, a nephew who's 7, and another nephew who's 12 in the middle of those 2. These are siblings. I have a few others too, but these siblings. So the 7-year-old, he's a live full out kind of kid anyways. And I think he's going to be fine no matter what. And my niece is like a mini me, and she has taken so much encouragement along the way and learning stuff and being a beginner and knowing that Aunt E is there to help, to encourage and all of that. Well, my nephew in the middle of them is afraid to try because he's a very good athlete, but he only likes to do stuff he's really good at, but he's 12. And so you apply that going forward in life, and then you never get a chance to be a beginner because you never want to look like a fool. You never want to feel like a fool. We all had our first yoga class. We joined many years ago. We know the postures, but it took going and knowing nothing to start.
Yeah.
Just all the things, like it goes into schooling, and especially in our doctorate program, like we all started as beginners. And Dr. Paula and I, like, fortunately, we had friends donate their bodies to science and experimentation who were also in it with us, that we had 4 years with. Beyond our
hammered on each other. That's how we learned.
Yeah. Like, are we supposed to know how to do this? But you have to step up to the table truly in our life, but we have to step up to the plate and know that we're going to not be great. We're not going to be a great runner. We're not going to be a great mountain biker. It's all of that stuff. But that is what's being lost in our generation of people in comparison. That generation.
Consistency.
Help.
Yeah.
And
people will also, like, I remember going back to anything I learned, but if I just go right back to chiropractic school and learning and even being new in practice, and I remember thinking, oh my God, am I ever going to be good at this? Because it seemed like an impossible feat to learn the art of the adjustment. And then whatever else, fill in the blank, to learn whatever. It seems like an impossible feat when you start it. And then it's almost like suddenly one day you forgot that you didn't know how to do it.
Yes.
which was the cool thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you ever remember the moment when you're like, I'm a really great chiropractor? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I'm still learning. I don't mean to say that
Yes.
in mass
No,
levels of
yeah.
arrogance, but
True.
I'm really freaking good
Yeah.
at what I do.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really good with these.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Dr. Erica is too, because she adjusts me. She's amazing. And we put our hands on people. We feel energy. We'll feel things and we'll say to the patient, wow, why is all that tension there in that right shoulder? Oh my God, you can feel that. And they will literally tell you a specific thing that they did because and they're like, how did you know that? And I'm like, because we know.
Because we speak the language of the body, and then we've
Yeah.
practiced it for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really awesome. So I do, if anybody's out there listening right now, I do want you to just kind of think into your life and just think, is there something that's kind of holding you back? Like you don't want to be a beginner again, or you have these ideas that you hate working out or whatever. Like there's natural laws of the body that lead to health. And then there's exactly the opposite of that. And we get a choice. And I can tell you, there's been some really interesting loss in the last, well, there's 3 people in the last week. I think, well, one of them's still hanging on. There's another that is either in transition, maybe today, and then there's another that, which we should share just really briefly. But there's another that transitioned on Sunday. But there's actually was a mistake made that they, instead of doing just morphine for this patient that's transitioning, they were accidentally hydrating as well. And so this life force was like, cool, like I'm going to keep moving forward, which was not the intention at this point in hospice care. And it was like, wait, did somebody not get them?
Right.
It's alarming. It's really alarming. And we see it so much these days that's kind of why we wanted to bring this particular episode. I mean, we totally missed this,
Put a star on it. We'll go to
I
next
did.
week. This was good.
I just put
This was a
8-1,
really good springboard.
8-1 on it. So that'll be number 25. But
Yeah.
I know that our 45 minutes goes quick, but I'm glad that we do just keep it to this because we could go on and on and on.
Oh my gosh, could be hours long. I do want to address real quick too something that when you were saying earlier about firing your doctor, finding a new one. And one of the things too, so many people will say, I want to get off my medication, but my doctor won't let me. So I understand that in parts. If your doctor, so I think the question needs to be, how do I transition off of this medication? What do I need to do to not be on this? And if you can't find this is where functional medicine comes in. But you need to find a functional medicine medical doctor who can, like, we don't have prescribing rights, so we can't make those recommendations. But find a medical doctor who practices functional medicine who can help guide you through how do we wean you off of this medication. Yep. But here's the thing. If you, let's just call it high blood pressure medication, if you are on that and you are still not eating well, not moving your body, not sleeping, not getting adjusted, all the things we talk about, then the answer is no. So no, unless you are willing to, what does it take to give up bad habits? If you don't want to be on that medication, you then have to be willing to do the things that are required for you to not be on the medication. So understanding that perspective, this isn't about us telling you, run to your medical doctor and say, how do I get off this medication? You got some work to do.
Yeah.
Right? You got some work to do. 80% of the United States is deficient and overweight, and over 40% are clinically obese. We have a severe epidemic in this country, and we have to get it addressed today. So that was my little.
Yeah, no, and just to add to that, everyone's looking for a shortcut, and you know what? Here's the bottom line, and one of my favorite lines of all time is, "There is no shortcut. If there was, that would be the way."
Yeah, right.
There's no such thing, and so it would already be the angle, the avenue.
Just start today. It's not going to be perfect, so start again tomorrow. Period. That's it. None of us learn once we have our craft and our skill. we are better at it, but you're always learning. You're always learning. There's always going to be some kind of a hiccup or something that you have to try to figure out, something that you have to evolve beyond. So I really do encourage you to know it's not going to be a perfect path, but there is no magic bullet. So any other parting words before we sign off till next week?
I think that's it. It's just, there's so much to share. And I mean, we're 8 months into this now, and like,
amazing.
Barely scratched the surface.
Oh my gosh.
So we look forward to you guys joining us every week. And
I know we'll make it through the 33 principles eventually.
We will.
All right. All right, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to be on Sunday Night Live and this Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will look forward to seeing you right here again next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks everybody for engaging, hitting the thumbs up, making sure you're subscribing and sharing. All right. Talk to you soon. Yeah. I know.